The Square Ball Podcast.
And we are underway with the post-press conference podcast. Easy for you to say. And welcome to the show, available in your podcast app and on YouTube. The Square Ball update brought to you with Levi Solicitors, who will offer you a 10% discount on their full range of legal services, including Michael.
Well, if you're expecting a more proactive and busy January, like buying stuff, houses, for example, you could do conveyancing. Yeah,
they've still not sent through any new copy then, have they?
No, they haven't. No.
10% discount on your legal fees on the full range of services. You can find those with details of the offer on the website, thesquareball.net. I nearly said then. levisolicitors.co.uk/the Square Ball. You won't find it on our website.
Nope.
No, it's on theirs.
Very little about legal services, but Levi's website is tremendous for it.
Good. Thank you, Michael. Dan, Michael and Rob, as we wrap up what we've just heard in Daniel Farke's press conference, they finished that about 5 minutes ago. We've been making notes throughout that. What were your main takeaway points from that? Biggest point of discussion this week has been Meslier. Do you want to lead off on that? Or get into the magic of the cup?
He hates Meslier, doesn't he? Turns out. That was the strongest we've heard him on most Leeds players, I would say, saying he had a poor game and that he could have done better in previous games, which we haven't heard before.
He was angry and emotional, Rob, as well.
And he also said of the criticism, it's fair and it's self-inflicted, which is hard to argue with, really. And I know a lot of people after the game, like, why doesn't he just go throw him under the bus? And I suppose you can't straight after the game.
Was that the angry and emotional bit?
Yeah, which we all felt.
Yeah.
But I think that is the most direct we've heard him sound. And it's a bit of accountability, which I think you can't avoid, because when he names his team and it's Caldalo in goal, and all right, it probably would have been him this week anyway, but that is the accountability we can all see. So why not just explain it beforehand?
He went into quite a long monologue, as he's prone to doing, talking about striking a balance in terms of the reaction to this. And he said it's a balance between, and he started talking about openness and honesty. And I don't think he ever mentioned what the other side of the scales were. But I suppose this was
upsetting him. He kept saying he was 24.
Yeah. But this was the openness and the honesty. He spoke about loyalty back in return. I think that might have been part of it, but quite whether this is a 3 or 4 sided scale, I'm not sure. But anyway, the point is he's got this way as Farke of he circles the wagons with his squad and he always backs his players, but he also called them out there, I felt, in that way where he's defending them but simultaneously letting the criticism be known. I suppose maybe that's the balance that he's talking about, because that is, as Rob said, the most direct and specific he's been in terms of criticising a player.
Although he kind of got our hopes to an extent, because he did criticise him. He said, like, it needs to be better. Then said, well, you're going to replace him. And he was like, oh, God, no.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, okay. Well, I thought maybe we might be looking at a new goalkeeper, but I guess he thinks that there's no one better available, probably.
Do you both feel like this is a fairly major turning point is not the word, but this is going to be a crucial thing on which his tenure is judged about whether they chose to act on this or not, and whether the club is maybe offering him the chance to do something with the goalkeeper, but he's saying no, he's deciding to stick rather than twist. It feels like a very high-risk gamble given where we are, because we've spoken recently about, and I think it was with Bryn Law on Monday, actually, where we were saying you do everything in your power that you can to ensure the outcome. And one of those options is to do nothing, is to stick with it. The other option is to roll the dice and change the goalkeeper. But Farke said very specifically that it would be, what did he describe it as, a bit of a madness? Did he say a sign of madness to think about a change?
It's weird, isn't it? Because I think you can look at it and go, we are top of the league. Last season, we pretty much won most weeks, ridiculous points total. Obviously, we fell short. But at the same time, like, I look at this Leeds team and I think if we were to just stick with what we've got, we probably will have enough. Like, we're top of the league. We are doing well. But at the same time, it just seems like a glaringly obvious thing to do, to just cover your ass, basically, and increase competition for places. Like we talk about, he's talking about loyalty. Leeds United as a club has been incredibly loyal to Illan Meslier in the last 4 years. It was Jamie Kemp earlier this week who was tweeting stats about how he's basically played more than any goalkeeper in Europe. and he's never really had any serious competition for that place. I mean, you look at Carl Darlow. Ilan Meslier has played more club games of football than Carl Darlow, and he's 10 years his senior. I mean, well, Meslier's 10 years younger, sorry. But I look at Meslier having played more than any other goalkeeper in Europe over the last 4 years. He's got worse as a goalkeeper over that. And it's been to his detriment, and it's not necessarily surprising, because if you've got a young fullback or a young midfielder or a young striker, and you just played him every week for 4 years, that probably might not be good for his development. And actually, I think the one thing we've not seen with Meslier is him having a prolonged spell out of the team and seeing how he bounces back from that, how he reacts to it, what he's made of, basically. And it might be what he needs to figure out himself. Like, what do I need to do?
And that's the argument for making changes in the wider squad as a whole in this transfer window too, isn't it? Is just, as I was saying earlier this week, shift the narrative, change the dynamic just a little bit. Doesn't need to be wholesale changes. I mean, he did speak about staying alive to one or two opportunities and staying awake, to one or two opportunities, one or two positions, more so than others. That suggests to me, reading between the lines, that he would like one or two if they can do it. I suppose the question mark comes about how particular he's being about who he will accept, and whether, in other words, is it just Emi Buendia?
I've got a list of one. It's like Buendia is his Dan James.
Yeah.
Every transfer window it comes back around. Who do you want? Just him.
Do you start to get the impression that there is an underlying stubbornness there about this? Because all the fans, I would say, broadly speaking, and we always want more players, but I think just that there's always one or two that you could add one or two maybe to the mix that would add that little bit of extra competition. And maybe if Meslier has got a little bit too comfortable in the number one spot, like you say, just to reinvigorate that competition, give him something to think about that's different. Same with the strikers as well.
Possibly, but you can see Farke's point of view as well, because he's the one who has to deal with it day to day, essentially. And if he's saying it won't help, he was talking about upsetting the balance of the squad and making people unhappy and stuff.
Well, you don't want to make people unhappy. You don't want to upset the balance of the squad. But did you see how unhappy and unbalanced the defence and the midfield and the attack were with what Meslier did with that second goal at Hull? You've seen the video footage. They're furious.
The thing we don't know with Farke is what players he's been offered, because he said at the end of the summer he'd been telling the club to look for a replacement for Somerville and Rutter from January. Got to the end of the summer window, and then he was saying they've not been able to find a number 10. And we kind of had it with Bielsa, where we heard he was particular and stubborn in the transfer market. But we also heard that summer, when we basically didn't sign a central midfielder, he got offered Harry Winks and was like, no, he's not good enough. And then they got to January and we were crying out for a central midfielder, and he got offered Harry Winks again. He's like, I've told you he's not good enough. Why have you not got me another option? So it's hard to know without knowing what's going on behind the scenes. But I was saying to Chris earlier today in the office that even going back to the January of the last promotion season, Big Kev was the big signing, and it was a fucking disaster. Like, it's turned out awful in the long run. But actually, for the second half of that season, when he first joined, it was a big lift to the crowd. Everyone was excited because we were all fed up of seeing Pat Bamford. But then we saw Big Kev, noticed he was rubbish, noticed he couldn't run. And actually, we all just went, cool, Pat Bamford's our guy then now. We know the alternative. He's shit. Let's just get behind him a little bit. And even then, we still want to strangle him at times. But it just, we know we've tried. And you go, okay, cool.
Yeah. I fear for what his role might be in this. You've heard whispers
Meslier or Farke?
Farke, yeah. About what he's saying no to and what he's being offered.
They seem to have signed Isaac Schmidt without Farke even knowing who he is. Like, there are ways of going as a club if they are really serious about covering their arse. Just get it done.
But then do you get into a power struggle then? Because he made it very clear in that press conference then about him being the manager, and those are the terms under which he's employed. He gets sign-off on this. And I wonder, has that led to the friction that we're aware happened this year behind the scenes?
Possibly. I suppose you don't know what has happened previously with Meslier. I think Kinnear said that we'd had offers for Meslier, didn't he, as well, when he came in. And on reflection now, you would say we should have taken them, and maybe the board would have taken them then. You don't know, do you? This is all complete guesswork, but whether or not Farke was saying, no, he's part of my plans, I want him to stay, he's my keeper, and then you get to this point in a season and he's getting dropped and the board might be going, well, yeah, you fucked that up a bit, didn't you? Because we could have got 13 million quid for him in summer, and now we can't shift him.
So there's a couple of discussions. I suppose one is...
It's all complete speculation as to what's gone on behind the scenes, which we don't actually know.
But there's one discussion around Meslier, which I think is a legitimate one. And if you're serious about improving this, you've got to be on a constant path of improvement. You can't just say January is difficult. As you say, Rob, same sort of argument. If there is an opportunity to present itself, you make it happen with a keeper. Because I think there is a collective feeling at the minute that we need better than we've been getting. And whether that is a form thing or whether that's just a quality thing, I guess we'll see in the long term, won't we?
I mean, we were talking about...
And then, sorry, I was going to say the other point was moving more generally in the market, one or two players. It sounds like it's not going to be a keeper, but maybe one or two others that they'd look at.
Talking about accountability, and if the club think they have found these players and think they can sign them, and then if Farke doesn't use them and the results aren't very good, that's the accountability. You sack him and you go, well, we've given you the tools and you're not using them and the results aren't working out, and we're going to blow promotion. So see you later, mate. But then if you give him those tools and he uses them, great. But if you don't give him the tools, then I suppose from the manager's point of view, at the extreme end of that, you get Neil Redfern being given Edgar Charney and being told like, well, what more do you need, Neil? Come on, get us promoted with this. But then again, then you go back to accountability and you go, well, they're clearly not the right players. So we see where the problem is then. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to kind of do it.
Yeah, they've got to exist for us to be able to judge them, basically.
Yeah. Well, yeah, whereas if you do nothing, that's a risk as well, as I was saying before. It feels like a big risk. I think it would be a huge risk if they did nothing. I really do.
As a goalkeeper or just generally? Just generally.
Yeah, I can understand the goalkeeping thing, because I think as much as Meslier has fucked up pretty badly this season on a number of occasions, as he called out, we've probably got enough in front of him and enough quality within Meslier. And
Darlow is a very experienced backup as well. He's not...
I think we've got enough to the squad to get us up.
He's not like Bailey Peacock-Farrell coming in when Wiedwald was on his arse and had to be dropped, and we were bringing in someone else who'd never played a game, more or less. Cal Darlow should be good enough.
The only thing that worries me with Darlow is that promotion season with Newcastle that everyone talks about as like his highlight of his career, basically, of his club career. He got in the team because their keeper at the start of the season was a mess. And then it got to the end of the season and the crunch time and the going for promotion and the real crucial games, and he got dropped because he was fucking up and they couldn't trust him, and they had to bring in another keeper who was sort of an experienced, boring keeper. So I'm a bit like, are we just going to end the season with Alex Cairns in goal? And I might not even be bothered if that happens, because he's played more games than anyone.
Although if that does happen, then it shows a complete and utter system failure, doesn't it, in terms of the relationship between recruitment and the manager, if that was to happen.
The recruitment team could rightly say, we brought in Alex Cairns. Well done us.
Yes. Anyway, to Harrogate, looks like going to miss Patrick Bamford there. He's out with another 4 weeks. And again, just going back to the opportunity, actually. Like, Bamford's out for another 4 weeks. He's done. He's completely done. And I'm not being mean when I say that. It's just over.
That was a classic start to a Leeds United press conference. Starts with, Pat Bamford's hamstring. Back soon then, is he? No.
4 weeks.
It's worse than we thought. Right, okay, great.
Yeah, so just get a strike.
So he is not leaving in the window as well.
Find someone. Just find someone. Yeah. Surely. It's not beyond your wit and wisdom to do that.
Essentially, Bamford had his first season in the Premier League and he's been injured since. I know he's played, you can point to him playing a fair number of games last year, but he kind of goes in a period of looking not quite fit. He had essentially like a couple of months of looking fit last year, and that's been it for 3 years. He started the season injured. Wasn't he injured in pre-season? Then he came back.
Farke forgot he came back and played at the start of the season because he looked so rusty.
Played, then was injured. Now he's injured again after coming on for about 30 seconds against Blackburn. His body's knackered.
Yeah, it's done.
We can't... You
can't rely on him.
No, you can't possibly pencil him in as part of the squad because you've no idea at what point he's going to be fit. It's an accepted bit of football that players get injuries. But he's never far from his next one, is he?
And also, he's spoken about Gelhardt and how much he rates his quality. And again, I feel like there's a certain amount of just circling the wagons here from Farke and doing the right thing and putting the pressure on himself. It's a sign of good management, to be fair, putting the pressure on yourself rather than the players, which is what he's done with Meslier here as well, by the way. He's made it about him and will he drop him, will he not? Will he replace him, will he not? He's made it, the conversation is about him and recruitment and not Meslier anymore, I suppose. Or it moves it along a little bit. But it's the same, like, he's not going to play Gelhardt. Not to any proper extent. It's going to be bit part stuff. There was a hint of players going out on loan, and it was Berren who asked in the press conference, is it as simple as if Patrick can get back from injury or whatever, do we send out Gelhardt on loan? And he still won't answer it directly. It's not enough. It's like, I think you have to accept that Gelhardt's not going to make a meaningful contribution to a promotion push this year. You can't rely on Bamford, as you said, so do something about it.
Well, Gelhardt doesn't fit as a number 9, does he, in this team?
And he's not a winger either, despite what Farke just said.
So that he's not a replacement for a striker anyway. So he needs to leave. And if Bamford isn't fit, I'd say we need probably another, maybe to look at a striker. I don't know.
And Pirot is missing the weekend's game. He's a doubt at least.
Yeah, they're not taking any risks.
Which doesn't sound serious, but again,
Yes.
if Bamford's injured and if Pirot misses the game, it's Matteo Joseph, who before the start of the season had never started a league game. And if you're for a promotion push, if you're relying on just him, that's frightening. I mean,
You could go get another player.
Yeah,
For God's sake.
before like we knew about these injuries, before the window started, really, I was just like a number 10 or a striker. I think either of them, and I think we probably pissed the league, quite frankly. Because I think if you get a number 10, it makes the striker's job easier. If you get a really good striker, it makes the number 10's job easier. I do think as well, Brendan Aronson in these last few weeks, like the last month or so, he started chipping in with more goals and the odd assists, which is what we've needed. But then he's having to play every week, more or less every minute. And you've seen it's not helped him. So give him some help. Like, it doesn't even have to be a guy who is going to take his place in the team, but just some competition there. Because Barker doesn't seem to want to play Nonto there as an out-and-out 10. He's talked about Rothwell occasionally, but we've not actually seen it. So if you're not going to use any of them there, just get someone.
Yeah.
I think if Bamford, the timing of Bamford's injury is it's good and bad so far as it's now become an issue. Because if he stays fit through January, gets injured right at the start of the month, you go, oh, well, there's nothing you can do now anyway. So we have to crack on with it. Being told at the start of January he's out for a month does immediately make you think, well, just get someone else.
And other side of the same coin, what happens if Brendan Aronson sustains an injury on the 1st of February and they've not moved to do something?
Yeah, or if Matteo Joseph or Pirot picks up an injury, you're then left with essentially one striker and Willie Nonto, I suppose, as the other option there.
Which is what he mentioned in the press.
But he's not tried and tested. We don't really know how that would look in this system. He certainly isn't a target man, is he? Because he's about 5'4". So he's a completely different, and also he doesn't seem fit to be able to complete a game either. This
is what I was getting at, though. It feels like there's this persistent attitude of make, do, and mend, and we don't know exactly where the responsibility for that lies. And their own kind of clunky way between like Kinnear when he comes on here and Farke does his press conferences, and the messages that come out on the media side. It always, I don't know. It just, clunky is the way that it feels. It never feels like there is a desire to just go out and do what is necessary, do more than enough. Like, because Farke spoke about, don't want to upset the squad. It's like, you've got, your squad has to keep evolving. Just because January is not an ideal time to do business, just do something.
It's the same every year as well. We've got a blog out today from Miles Roycroft, and he's sort of saying we have these discussions constantly. We are asking the same questions.
You mean what, the just about enough kind of approach?
Just in January window, we get to January every year, and we're having the same discussions. We're asking the same questions, and we're getting told the same things by the board and the manager that it's difficult and it's hard. And it is difficult signing players. It is difficult scouting them and finding the right ones. But Farke's been asking for this for a year now, and other teams sign players in January. It is possible.
Well, we're talking about looking at strikers, and Sheffield are on the verge of getting Brereton Diaz, aren't they?
Would you take him?
Yeah.
Just as an option?
Yeah.
When I saw that, I was like, oh, he's available. Why aren't we linked with him?
Well, yeah. He's shown
he has been there before, it's worth saying, so maybe that swings the...
And he's shown that, he's not, in terms of a permanent signing, he's not maybe the man for the Premier League because he's had a bit of a go at it now and it's not particularly worked out. So you kind of have doubts there. But yeah, he's the sort of deal where you go, oh, right, that's available.
Yeah.
Also, you go up and you win so much money, you're filthy rich, can spunk a bit of it. Like the amount of waste in the Premier League is ridiculous. And you look at the amount of money we wasted over 3 seasons there. Was outrageous.
We've also wasted a huge amount of money on tying players to Premier League contracts. Like people like Sam Greenwood and Joffe and Bamford, who've made no real impact on the first team for a good couple of years, who will all be on Premier League contracts. Ian Poveda as well as another example. So I suppose there's an underlying. It goes back to an underlying discussion there about the standard of recruitment and your sporting director and all that. But yeah, football wastes money, doesn't it? You're absolutely right.
I mean, we basically set fire to 40 million quid for John Kevin Augustin, and it's like, but we got promoted and we finished 9th, and no one really cared. But then it's all, obviously what came after that was just more burning of money, which didn't help anyone. But yeah, you can waste 15 million quid if it gets you promoted. It's fine. And
somewhere buried in all that, I was going to say podcast, but presser. Well, I think he slipped the line in. We've got the money. He mentioned it in passing, didn't he? I think.
Well, that goes back to in the summer when they said they needed to sell 2 players for like big money. We sold 3, plus also sold guys like Kamara for double the money, more or less. Charlie Cresswell. There's got to be money there.
So it removes another one, and that narrative that Kinnear came in and laid out, it removes the excuse, doesn't it, of we need to be careful around PSR.
Yeah, there was never a plan to sell, unless they were lying about not planning to sell Rutter. There is a load of money to spend now because he went for a huge amount of money.
That was just a bonus 40 million quid at the end of the window, basically, wasn't it?
If they want to, as an alternative, if they wanted to share that 40 million quid out amongst season ticket holders, I'd be willing to listen.
Right,
knock a £5 off the ticket price. Be great.
Right,
but if failing that, I'd rather we use it to buy some footballers.
Yeah, just go up, because the alternative scenario of not going up doesn't make for pretty viewing.
And we need to win the FA Cup.
Right, yeah, of course they've got that.
We need the squad depth for that as well.
Have you done your tinfoil cup?
Obviously, yeah.
Cardboard tinfoil.
It's still in good nick from the mid-90s, doesn't it? Only have to take it to Ellen Road once every decade or so, as it works out. So, but he did have positive injury news as well, though, because he said Firpo's back, Gruev's back,
Ferber's out,
Ferber's injured.
That's for you, Rob.
Very good.
Spineless.
Yes, but Big Sexy Pirate is back.
And again, but that was another. Sorry to keep bringing it back to this, but that was another one of the reasons cited for not moving in the market. We've got lots of returning injuries, and it's teetering on that like a new signing meme that has done the round with Leeds for so many years. I mean, fuck that. Just improve the fucking squad.
Bamford's been like a new signing so many times.
Just improve the squad.
He's also been like an injured signing.
I felt like his line, though, on the returning injuries was a bit pointed in that he was talking about the full-back positions and Gruev coming back, which means we've got another central midfielder. It's like, well, no one's asking for us to sign a central midfielder.
I don't know if that was maybe because if we've got another central midfielder back, then it frees Ampadu to be a centre-back, which is true, in fairness.
And maybe Rothwell as a 10, I guess, but...
Yeah.
He's not played there all year. Just sign a number 10.
Yeah. Or at least pretend.
Yeah. Do what we did with Max Verber when we brought him in as a left back. Just sign someone and say he's a number 10. It's fine.
Get Max Verber in. So easy to.
Well, he seems to think he's a striker, doesn't he?
So specifically to Harrogate then as well, it sounds like a bit of rotations in order. Darlow will play as we expected. That was planned for. Will he retain his place after that? I feel like the merits of this particular press conference will become evident when we play Sheffield Wednesday. About 11 o'clock when the team's released for Sheffield Wednesday, what he's chosen to do there with that lineup versus what he said today. I think that's when you'll...
Keylor Navas in net.
Maybe.
Straight off the beach.
Maybe. But yeah, so we know that we're going to see Darlow on... when are we playing? Saturday evening?
Saturday evening.
Yeah, so we'll see Darlow. And I've got a feeling that what will happen is Darlow will give us one of those slightly hair-raising moments, but it will otherwise be probably fine. He'll give us a hair-raising moment with possession at the back. People will realise he's not as good with his feet as Meslier, and that will throw everyone into a tailspin about needing another keeper. It will only heighten the desire for somebody to go get another keeper.
Just play Alex Cairns.
Really?
I'm all on board for it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's... I don't know, you've probably discussed this so much already this week, but like the argument that Darlow's not as good with his feet as Meslier. Meslier's distribution has gone so far downhill, and all you need Darlow to do is pass the ball 10 yards to his centre halves.
I was saying that earlier this week, wasn't I? That under Bielsa, the keeper's distribution was more important because you were looking at little chipped passes to fullbacks and wings and stuff. All Meslier really does now is knock it to another defender who is stood generally to the side and slightly behind of him. It's like that's the positions they adopt, isn't it, to make an easy pass. And when that's not on, if we're being pressed high, just goes long anyway.
And don't kick it into touch. I'll just shank it nowhere.
I feel like if we're structurally well set up in defensive midfield, if we lose the ball higher up the pitch, it's a very little risk anyway, because we'll just win it back. And we'll win it back higher up the pitch.
We barely concede any shots.
No.
concede the fewest shots in the league. So it should be quite an easy job for whoever comes in.
There will be some rotation against Harrogate, but who's it going to be? We know it's going to be Joseph up front, obviously. Darlow in nets. Who would you put between them? Is it just a case of just a little bit of rotation based on the usual suspects?
Will we see Isaac Schmidt?
He's got to play in this, surely.
You would hope so, wouldn't you?
If he doesn't play in this, he's never going to play.
For Isaac Schmidt's sake, I would say, yeah.
Yeah. Where exactly he plays, I'm not completely sure.
Yeah, it's a weird one with him because he has become a bit of like a cause celeb because we've not really seen anything of him. But it's like, well, I don't know where he necessarily plays or if he's any good. Like, I think we should use him since he's here. But yeah, I will be interested to see if he plays and where.
I wonder if he plays left back because Bogle is young enough and fit enough to play a game. It's not like there's a midweek game either, so I wonder if Bogle starts right back and he just is at the left back choice. But yeah, other than that, I don't know. What do you do in midfield?
Just rotate them, I suppose, don't you? You're starting to get, I say, more options there.
I mean, it's going to be too early for Gruev, isn't it?
Yeah, he was saying he was back in team training.
Does Gilavogi start?
Yeah, I think so.
It'll be Nonso and Ramazani on the wing, you'd imagine. But then
poor Brendy.
Yeah, well, there's no one else, is there?
Although playing against Harrogate, he'll feel sort of at home, I suppose.
Yeah.
Sees a lot of the Harrogate lot, presumably around Harrogate, which is where he lives, because his life is documented in painful detail, if you ask Michael.
I'll check in on him, see what he's been up to today, see where he's been having his coffee.
So Gilavogi in midfield. Which one do you play ahead of him?
It depends who's fit enough, really, because Ampadu is obviously returning. Tanaka's played a lot of football. Rothwell's played quite a bit.
Just give them 45 minutes each.
Yeah.
Would you play quite a strong starting 11, relatively speaking, and try and get it? You try and get it won, don't you? If you can do that, what you don't want is for it to be tight and it starts to get away from you, and then you may be having to bring players on to try and turn the situation. You just want it to be nice, a nice early goal. Let Harrogate have a nice day out. That's the narrative we want to emerge from this. What we don't want is an actual game.
Even with the changes we've suggested, though, it's still a really strong team.
Yeah,
I'm interested to watch Joseph because, I mean, he played really well at Harrogate in pre-season, didn't he? That was the start of him being like, he's our guy. And, he works hard. He's done some good stuff this season, but he's kind of lost that swagger in front of goal that he had in pre-season. And you think, just go stick a few goals
flat track bully.
This might be what he needs just to kickstart him again, hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, they are a bad side. We do have to address that. I mean, they're not, I know we've lost to non-league sides in the past. They're close to it. They're currently they're towards the bottom of League 2, aren't they? Yeah, they're in relegation trouble, looking at maybe going down to the conference again. So we should, any team we play should beat them.
Let's hope so.
Cal Darlow drops one into his own net.
I have got the table up. Yes, they are 21st and a point above Swindon, who are 4 points. So they're 5 points clear of Morecambe, who are in one of the two drop spots. And Carlisle are rock bottom. Funny, isn't it? Carlisle are down there, just been propping up the rest when they were such a thorn in our side for a bit in the mid-2000s.
Weird period of Carlisle rivalry.
That's who we should sign, Kieran Westwood. He was brilliant against us.
Every time. Every bloody time. All right, well, we'll see how we emerge from this one at the weekend. Hopefully it all goes to plan. And, it'd be nice to see a bit of the lesser spotted Isaac Schmidt. I'm looking forward to that.
And see how tired Gilavogi looks after when he has to play more than 8 minutes.
Right, then we'll wrap it up there. We'll be back with a match ball after the Harrogate game, and we are going to be talking to Berren Cross, now of the Athletic, after that game, which will come out on the West Stand on Monday. Talking to Tony DeRigo ahead of that, and we'll find out what his take is on this from a pro's point of view, because it's interesting how we spoke to Tony, I think, a couple of shows ago about what it was like when John Lukic wobbled a little bit with the back pass rule, and if you've got a little bit of doubt in your mind about your keeper, how you deal with that. So should we just run that back again?
Talk about it again, Tony. It's fine.
Right, we'll speak to you on those.
The Square Ball Podcast.